The fear of being unproductive. Perhaps you know this feeling, the gnawing sense that you should be doing more, being more, achieving more. The voice in your head that never quite lets you rest, that turns every moment of pause into an opportunity for self-improvement. You wake up already thinking about your to-do list, fall asleep planning tomorrow's optimizations, and spend your days in a constant state of productivity anxiety. The fear of being unproductive has become so central to your identity that you almost forget who you are without it. I worry that what masquerades as ambition is actually something more insidious. You have become both the exploiter and the exploited in your own life. According to philosopher Byung-Chul Han, we now live in the achievement society. You no longer need external authority figures to exploit you because you've learned to exploit yourself with forced positivity and ruthless efficiency. The achievement society and capitalist realism previous generations lived in a rather different world to what we have today. Their lives have relatively clear hierarchical structures, defined roles, and external sources of both authority and meaning. Back then, workdays ended at a designated time. You knew who to listen to, the rules were explicit, and any sense of oppression likely came from outside sources like institutions, schools, churches, or your managers. In that era, people lived within what scholar Jean-François Lyotard called grand narratives. They shared unified belief systems about progress, religion, nationalism, or ideology that told people who they were and how the world worked. But by the late 20th century, these unifying stories began to collapse. Traditional values were diluted by increased recognition of human diversity. Religious institutions declined in influence, and the certainties that once organized social life crumbled. While this shift brought freedom and opportunities, it also left us adrift without clear external guidance about purpose, success, or worth. Today, in our postmodern fluid world with permeable boundaries and celebration of individual choice, the absence of these guiding frameworks has left many struggling with existential uncertainty. Without clear external structures to define success, meaning, and worth, you are left to create your own frameworks. The collapse of these grand narratives created what Mark Fisher describes as the conditions for capitalist realism to take hold. We have somehow all subscribed unknowingly to the idea that capitalism is the only viable economic system and that there can be no imaginable alternative. Capitalist realism presents itself as simple pragmatism rather than an ideology. What appears as your personal choice to optimize and maximize productivity may actually reflect how thoroughly capitalist realism has colonized your imagination. The system does not need to convince you that capitalism is the best. It only needs to strip your imagination of any other possibilities. In the vacuum of meaning, rather than creating compassionate, realistic standards for ourselves, we tend to internalize the values that maximize profits in society. This sets up a slippery slope for the gifted maximizers amongst us who are prone to perfectionism and drawn to growth. You may become drawn to values preached by capitalism from a young age, since they claim to help you maximize productivity, efficiency, and output. Hustle culture becomes particularly intoxicating. It exploits your existential anxiety by promising that if you optimize harder, sleep less, work smarter, you can finally unlock your unlimited potential. This means you end up treating yourself harsher than any external authority would ever be. This is especially true for those who have been abused or neglected in childhood. When you did not receive the loving and supportive childhood that would have helped you internalize a compassionate inner voice, you become particularly vulnerable to self-exploitation. Traditional oppression says, no, you can't. But modern achievement culture says, yes, you can, and therefore you must. Essentially, meritocracy says you're free to achieve anything through your own effort and willpower. When you're told success and failure are all down to personal factors, the logical conclusion is that any struggle or limitation reflects your deficiencies. When everything is supposedly possible through positive thinking and hard work, any failure to achieve must be your fault. Suddenly having a slow mental health day is your fault. If you are sad or anxious, you are not practicing enough self-care or gratitude. If you're physically exhausted, it's because you've not optimized your diet or yoga routine. As Fisher holds, when you drive yourself toward constant optimization, you're not rebelling against external authority, but conforming to internalized market imperatives that feel like authentic personal choices. Think also about the relentless cheerfulness of productivity culture. You must love your work, find passion in your hustle, practice gratitude even when you are burning out. All this pressure constitutes the violence of positivity. What's missing in the picture are realities that you may be traumatized, held back, and hurt by childhood trauma that was no fault of yours. Systematic barriers, visible and invisible, deeply ingrained in society, political turbulence, or economic forces that you had no control over. Or the simple reality is that some goals may just be overly idealistic for the state our world is in right now. To not fall behind and be alienated in the achievement society, you may also subject yourself to constant metric-based surveillance. You monitor yourself obsessively and use technology to turn your life into a numbers game. You track your health, evaluate and analyze your relationships, listen to happiness experts to implement tools for optimizing your neurotransmitter balance. You biohack to meet society's standards of attractiveness. Therapies and self-care must have measurable outcomes. Even sleep and rest must be of quality so they're productive. Every untracked moment feels like wasted potential, every unmeasured activity like a betrayal of your potential. The goal is to press every minute of your life into a pressure cooker that makes you a better human doing, and the larger capitalist system can continue to run with utmost market efficiency. When intensity and the drive for growth get exploited, the pressure from the achievement society hits the emotionally or intellectually gifted with particular valence. Many intense and gifted people already live with heightened existential anxiety. You're constantly questioning life's meaning or purpose, acutely aware of life's finitude and mortality, and live with the loneliness of caring so deeply in a seemingly indifferent universe. Your perfectionism emerged from your naturally high standards, perceptiveness, and sometimes idealism. You naturally see the gap between what is possible and what currently exists in yourself, in others, and in the world. This creates a persistent urgency and responsibility. You have always been the one who figures things out, who sees solutions others miss, who carries more than your share. You became frustrated when your output did not match your vision, and the changes you want to make are not happening fast enough. Without reconciling with the fact that your acute awareness of imperfection was destined to be a part of your existential reality, and without understanding that your naturally high standards were natural byproducts of your exceptional abilities, you could have driven yourself to burnout without realizing. When combined with achievement society pressure, the result is a chronic, haunting fear of being unproductive. The fear of being unproductive becomes even more deeply entrenched if in your early life you've learned that love is earned through doing rather than simply being. You saw that your worth was measured by your output, that the more you can do for others, the more you are valued by your parents and peers. The accumulated accolades gave you membership into circles where, however temporary, you had some sense of belonging. Something that, as an intense or neurodivergent person, you have likely spent your lifetime searching for. When productivity becomes the currency of love and belonging, pausing becomes the most daunting thing because it means you may lose your place in others' hearts and in the world. Now, the fear of being unproductive is an existential terror. It's more than just wasting time. It concerns losing your fundamental right to exist and be loved. With such a core fear operating in the background, it makes total sense that the fear of being unproductive haunts you in every quiet pause where your space is not filled with actions and agenda. Many gifted people are groomed with the belief, either explicit or implicit, that because you can, you should. The internalized mind trap started with the unconscious realization that you are more competent than your siblings and even your parents, and if you do not step in to fill in certain roles, things will be left undone or in a suboptimal state. Gifted children often automatically step into family caretaker roles. They become the emotional regulators for volatile parents, the translators between family members who cannot communicate, and the problem solvers for adult issues that were too heavy for them. They may find themselves managing a parent's mental health, mediating conflicts between adults, or taking responsibility for younger siblings' well-being and development. These children learn to read emotional atmosphere with hypervigilance, always scanning for problems they might need to fix or crises they might need to prevent. The achievement society amplifies these early patterns. As a gifted adult, you carry forward the trauma of parentification, and it morphs into a chronic sense of over-responsibility and the inability to say no. The chronic hypervigilance and compulsive caretaking may then feed into the fear of being unproductive, where rest feels impossible when you're constantly scanning for problems to solve and people to help. Your capabilities become obligations. Your insights become responsibilities. Rest feels selfish. Boundaries feel like failure to save those you care about. Saying no feels like betraying who you could become. Beyond the achievement imperative, liberation starts with lucidly recognizing how we have all internalized, when we were still too young to discern critically, the values laid down by neoliberal capitalism. These values are particularly insidious because they hide the fact that they are bullies. They come wrapped in an aura of possibility and optimism, giving us temporary highs and making us addicted to chasing more. But violence is violence. The relentless push to constantly perform and optimize is fundamentally different from natural, life-giving drive and excitement. What feels like a choice may not actually be an authentic choice at all. As philosophers like Herbert Marcuse argue, the illusion of choice can strip us of genuine freedom by conditioning us to unwittingly perpetuate systems of exploitation. Your fear of being unproductive may feel like a natural response to wasted potential, but it actually reflects how thoroughly market logic has shaped your sense of what constitutes a meaningful life. True liberation means reclaiming your right to exist outside business ontology, to value yourself through frameworks that resist measurement, optimization, and constant improvement. I understand that you've always felt the pull of your unrealized potential, and this is something you may consider reconciling with. The feeling may never fully disappear, and that is not a failure or a problem to solve. As an intense and growth-oriented person, you will likely continue to evolve and discover new depths within yourself until the day you leave this world. It is likely that once you reach one milestone, your awareness naturally shifts to what else might be possible. This is the beautiful nature of a curious, expanding mind, that it cannot stop seeing possibilities, even when you try. I would never suggest that you alter your growth-oriented, excitable nature, but I may suggest a shift in how you approach your trajectory. There is a difference between organic, life-giving development and the compulsive, never-enough quality of achievement culture. Healthy growth should feel natural and not forced, exciting but not manic. Like a river flowing downstream, you cannot stop it and you do not want to. Any motivation to do more flows from genuine curiosity, joy in learning, the desire for connection, and the authentic expression of your gifts. It includes natural rhythms of expansion and rest, effort and ease. Compulsive achieving, on the other hand, is driven by the fear of being unproductive, the fear of missing out, of losing love, of growing old, of being irrelevant, of losing your place in the world. You may fear that without restlessness and perfectionism driving you, you will accomplish nothing. But perhaps the opposite is true. Perhaps your greatest contributions will come when you learn to be still long enough to hear what really wants to emerge from the deepest, most soulful part of you. Also, your body should not be a tool you use so you can do as much as you can. It is a collaborator, an organism you must listen to. Your health is not a machine to be optimized, but a wise companion whose signals deserve respect. Your fast mind is not a resource you or anyone else should exploit for constant problem solving. Your empathy is not a debt you owe to the world, but a gift you can choose to share. As a living system, see if you can try a hormetic approach. Your system likely thrives with gentle, measured doses of healthy pressure, but becomes depleted and autophagic when overexploited. Small doses of challenge and engagement strengthen your gifts. Constant, overwhelming demands break them down. After all, you're a discerning steward of the gifts you were endowed with. To share them is not an obligation, but an offering that flows naturally from you when you're in a mentally and physically good space. The ultimate remedy for fear of being unproductive is to reclaim your right to exist without feeling like you need to earn it. Slowly and gradually, you learn that it is safe to leave gaps for pauses and rest, that your worth is not built on what you can do for others or the world, but on the inherent value of you just being there. You come to understand that you can rest, let go, even drop the balls, and still matter. You're allowed to be tired, imperfect, and human, and still be thoroughly loved. When you stop trying to justify your existence through productivity, you may finally discover that, paradoxically, your greatest contributions flow effortlessly from you. In learning to simply be, rather than constantly striving to become something, you open yourself to a well of creativity and connection that cannot be manufactured by self-optimization. If you can learn to discern the difference between life-giving, river-like drive and the pressure from internalized capitalist values, you would be on your way to having a fulfilling life journey, one that is unique to you and not subjecting you to the violence of envy, comparison, humiliation, and chronic anxiety. And as you allow yourself to rest in the truth that your existence is already enough, you may find liberation in the quiet assurance that you are and always have been full and enough.